Hi everyone, Matt Sorensen here from Heal Hub. Just wanted to take a couple of minutes of your time to share a latest new adventure that's really been, when I look back on it, probably several decades in the making. So this is the missing link. And this is really a holistic, simple approach to not only identifying, but also overcoming, working with any emotional roadblock. So this is really for anyone and everyone who feels like they're losing a battle or even the battle. Last year with COVID, we saw one of the highest rates of suicide and emotional and mental illness ever recorded. Why is that? Because people never really learnt what it took for them to how to feel safe, secure, find their own rhythm, and really know who they are within themselves without the material outside world that typically the Western culture indoctrinates into everyone through mainstream media, culture, and perceptions about who and what we need to be in order to fit into society. So Western culture typically teaches us what to think, but not how to think. So when we can bring our thoughts and feelings to conscious attention and feel safe doing that, be it alone, in a relationship, and or within a gathering, then we can take control of our own thoughts and regain our power and become a lot more emotionally stable. So this is really all about how emotions should never be overlooked. Emotions run the body. Unconscious emotional imbalances can really undermine any outcome. One of the most overlooked aspects of rehabilitation and conditioning are our unresolved emotional stresses. Emotions are our energetic expression of our thoughts and beliefs within our glands and organs. It's our emotions that symbolize our reality to such a degree that they can be stronger than our own awareness of emotional self-expression. When our emotions are imbalanced, we can unconsciously influence an outcome in any relationship with self and or another, and without even realizing what we're creating in any moment. Emotional expressions can be strong enough to override our body's own survival mechanism, and when imbalanced, may even lead to people ending their own life and or even the lives of others. So why this program and why now? Well, I have had a deep, innate need to share this information. There are millions, if not billions, of people worldwide who suffer needlessly. And for this program, there's been really three key points that happened in my personal life that have inspired this program to share this information with as many people as I can. One being my own personal upbringing and how that affected me in my adult life. Two would be really combining several institutions of education into one little packet for anyone who it really resonates to. And the third, and probably the most potent, was a friend of mine who took his life last year. So it's really dedicated to anyone out there who feels like they're in that situation. And this stuff has been going through the roof, especially within the last 12 to 18 months. And if they only had a little bit of information and practical ways to really help their lives, then that can make all the difference. Western healthcare isn't really healthcare. It's actually a disease management system. And people tend to forget that it's really a business. The healthcare system only profits when people are sick. So when you really think about it, what interest do they have in really keeping people healthy? If you look at the research from experienced doctors and therapists who have been working in their industry their entire life, they all seem to say the same common theme with the underlying thread of, we want you to be functioning enough to perform a given task, i.e. a job, but just sick enough to need some sort of medication. Emotions potentially can override any single thought. We have a thought that sparks our awareness of something. It's the emotional attachment we have to that thought that's either going to take us towards something or away from it. To the degree that our emotions are imbalanced, so will our thoughts be. If our emotions are imbalanced, not only will our thoughts be thrown out of our center of gravity, if you will, but it's going to take us potentially to a position of self-harm or harming of others. I really wanted to share some simple, practical, powerful, and holistic ways of overcoming emotional traumas. Now, anyone over the age of about 3 years of age likely has some kind of emotional stress within their system. As I take you through the program, we store our emotional stresses in the brain and the cells of the body. So there are all kinds of programs out there that look at mindset, movement. They look at how to eat, all these kind of things that are segregated to such a degree that they talk more and more about less and less. What this program really does is show you how to work with emotions physically, how to work with emotions mentally, how to work with emotions physically and spiritually. So today I'm going to offer really 3 simple action steps for you that you can take away. Hopefully you can implement that, resonate with it in some way, implement that in your own life. And hopefully this sparks something in you that creates a desire to take some action where it's needed in your life. First of all, we're going to look at how overall stress exacerbates our emotions. We all have emotional something trapped in our body to some degree. To the degree that you're stressed, that's going to push our emotions closer and closer to the surface. All our emotions really are energy in motion. When we have free-flowing energy through the body, we naturally flow through the rhythm of life. When we get stuck, we also get stuck in our life. So where energy is blocked, we're also blind. And I show how to correlate that between physical health, mental health, emotional health, and spiritual development as well. So how do you know where you're at physiologically loading? Physiological loading is just a word for stressed, but physiology is the cells of our body. So we have physical stress, thermal stress, mental, emotional stress, nutritional, chemical, and electromagnetic. So physical stress can be eating high quality food or not enough food, too much, or the wrong kind of food. Thermal stress is being too hot or too cold. Mental, emotional stress can be an argument with a loved one, which can create an emotional response, therefore leading down a cascade of further incidences in due time. Physical stress can be working out too much or too little. Chemical stress can be working with things like paint or house cleaners or anything that has a chemical cocktail that it's made out of. And electromagnetic stress can be simply looking at your phone for too long, being on your laptop for too long, being around electronics, power lines, etc., etc. So when we add all these stresses up through day-to-day life, you can actually tip the scale. When we tip the scale, all the bricks tend to fall to one side. So when the bricks fall to one side, we've gone out of balance, out of homeostasis, into a state of dis-ease. And the more and more you stay there by adding more and more earthquakes to your overall load, then the worse your symptoms are likely to become. What we need to do is manage our stresses so we can right back up on the scale and find our balance, which is really unique to everyone. In regards to mental health, one of the most critical things where people get stuck is a perceived loss of freedom. Now, with the whole COVID situation going on around the world, this is rife throughout the entire population. So the greater loss of perceived freedom there is, the more symptomatic someone is likely to become. When we experience a perceived loss of freedom, we go into what Paul MacLean would call the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain is what our brainstem is made up of. And what we have as a brainstem is typically what a reptile has as its entire brain. So it only really has the capacity to compute and to handle safety, sustenance, and sex, typically in that order. Now, humans are a little different, but you get the point I'm trying to make. The more animal-like you become, the more stressed you become, the more animal-like you get, the more self-centered you become as a means of survival. So you go into your animal brain, your survival brain, and the more animal-like you become, the less capacity for others you actually have. It's not only when we can stay safe within ourselves, we can stay safe and secure within ourselves and defining what that means to us. Can we transcend into more of a compassionate, loving nature? We can handle our own capacity for our own wants, needs, and desires, but also handle the others' needs, wants, and desires as well. It's only when you have a solid foundation in your own values, the values of others, can you transcend into the all. So you have more of a world-centric view or a community-centric kind of focus. And that's when you're healthy enough to be able to handle all that load. The more spiritually developed, more mentally developed someone is, the more capacity they have to not only take on multitudes of situations, but the more capacity they have to adapt in any given situation. So the question I have for anyone watching is, what color are your glasses? Are you perceiving life through the animal lens, or have you transcended and seeing the world through a more widened gaze? Are you seeing stress for what it really is? So do you feel safe in your life right now? And what do you need to feel safe? These are two questions that I would highly recommend anyone listening to this sit down and meditate and get very, very clear on the answers to what these questions mean to you. We're also going to talk into where we store certain emotions in the body. So just like a TV attracts TV waves, radio attracts radio waves, each organ is an organ of reception. So the liver, for example, attracts emotions appropriate for the liver. The stomach attracts emotions associated with the stomach, and each organ has its own receptacle of thoughts and emotions, or our psychological themes. Tensions start arising, problems start coming up when we do not dissipate the tension between the brain and the body. So to give you an example, we go through a perceived situation in waking life, the brain perceives that, and because the brain's a busy organ, just like a game of hot potato, it passes on to the next corresponding organ that's correlating to that specific psychological theme / emotion. So to give you an example, our liver is the home of our deep self, our deep being. Any kind of allergies, our deep sense of ego or individuation or who we are in relative to society, the world, etc. Where we also hold our deep energy reserves. So anyone with fatigue are likely to show up with a lot of liver symptoms. It's where we hold our self-identity. People that suffer insomnia often have an overburdened liver. We hold our self-esteem in several organs, particularly the liver. The liver is a big, big organ, but our self-esteem in relation to others, we tend to hold in the stomach and the pancreas. Self-esteem in relation to our relationship with ourselves is held in the liver. We hold pride in the liver, rigidities, we hold anger, we hold prohibition, cyclic violence as well. All of these things, anguish, are held in the liver as well as fear. Now, some of these emotions in the liver also have a carryover to the right kidney, and more emotions of a genetic theme we hold in the left kidney. So in this program, we generally look at overall physiological load, how that affects your emotional state. We look at how emotional patterns form, and that goes all the way back to typically in the womb or when we are an infant. We also want to look at following the breadcrumb trail and also noticing how the spot that hurts necessarily isn't the best place to start looking. We also go deep into the connections between physical symptoms and emotions and what to do about it. We want to work with emotions physically, mentally, energetically, and also spiritually. So as I mentioned before, we have all these kinds of programs that focus just on the physical, just on the mindset, just energetically, and just the spiritual development stuff. This program covers everything. So for staying with me for this long, I want to throw a quick offer out there for anyone who this really resonates to so far. One free Vital Principles lesson. The Vital Principles series is a perfect holding the hand to the missing link as it goes deeper into the psyche and behaviors and things to do on how to correct certain patterns of those natures. I'd also like to offer a 20% discount using the code HH20 on anything at healhub.net. Also like to book in for a free call to discuss this program or any other programs for that matter. 20-minute free call, zero obligations. The most important thing that you can get out of that call is clarity. Zero obligation to sign up, zero obligation to take it any further. If you got one bit of information out of this short presentation today, then I'm a happy man. So the link to click on in the free call is down below. If the link may not work on some browsers, so if that doesn't work right there, feel free to copy and paste it into your browser. That will take you directly to the page where you can click in, have a look, book in for your call. We'll have a chat, get some clarity, and at worst, I can show you what direction you need to travel in to get the most out of life and to help you on the path of healing and potentially even identifying any emotional stresses and traumas that might just be the roadblock stopping you from getting you from where you are to where you want to be. So that's enough for me today. I'm Matt Sorensen.